Welcome to the e-assessment module. My name is Leanne Kyler, and I would like to encourage you to use this week to really think about the way that we are assessing and how we use technology to assess. We don't e-shop. I don't e-converse. I converse with friends online. I shop online. I bank online. I don't e-bank. So I'd like to ask us to make a little bit of a mind shift. Although we call this the e-assessment module, I'd like to say that this is the assessment module. How are we using technology to assess? How are we using technology to provide feedback to students about their learning and to provide feedback to our departments about what is happening in our modules? I think when we think about assessment, we often think about a chore. But let's start thinking about how are we using technology to ensure that our students are competent in the content that we are actually trying to bring across, that they are competent in the skills and the attitudes that we are trying to give to them. During this module, what will happen is that you will go through some of the texts and the resources that we provided, and then we'll participate in an online forum discussion. During this discussion, I'd like to think clearly about how we are assessing for competence and ideas on how we can actually use technology to do this. This forum will give you access to your assessment, and then we will go on to have a link meeting during the week on a Wednesday, and I will send you an invite for this. You do not have to have link to be able to participate in the meeting, rather just follow the screen prompt on the meeting invite and then join us via the online platform. Welcome again to the e-assessment module, and I look forward to getting to know you a bit better during this time.
So often people say that we are comparing apples with oranges. Well, let's look at it. If we see apples as kind of normal, standard, and we look at traditional assessment, traditionally assessment is used for either formative or summative purposes. So formative assessment lets the student know how they are doing so that they can make changes to what they learn and how they learn. Summative assessment is for marks, the assessment that we usually use for our grade books. Then there are requirements provided to us in the university policy. And this policy provides us with specific guidelines for how we should assess. They include validity, reliability, transparency, etc. We also have requirements from industry, for lack of a better word, professional organizations which sometimes apply in terms of accrediting the programs and providing specific requirements for us to include in our teaching and ultimately in our assessment. So what are the reasons for assessment? Assessment, as you will see in the book provided in this module, can be diagnostic, for feedback, accreditation, or even used as motivation. And I know all of us who lecture, at some point we have either consciously or subconsciously known that an assessment that we've set is to almost force the students to learn something. But if you think about it, what is the problem with having just traditional assessment as we've always had it? Kind of everyone sitting in rows, writing out long essays or doing multiple choice questions. It's that we are assessing recall. We are assessing isolated concepts in a world that's complex. We are using written or multiple choice assessments for practical skills. In the past, we could have said, well, there isn't anything we can do about it. That's the way we can assess. We have too many students, so that's the only way we can assess. But let's see. If we think about it, as e-assessment being an orange, the outside is that it's a little bit bitter and rough. And one of the first things that is almost a bitter pill to swallow that people say is that with e-assessment it's so easy for the students to cheat. Well, here's just a short clip. If you think about it, this was simply me typing into Google how to cheat on a test, and you will find hundreds, if not thousands, of ways to cheat on paper tests. And this particular video that's playing now on your screen is about how to print details where you would usually have the dietary quantities on bottles. This one specifically looks at how to actually print all your text on almost like a sellotape, and then rinsing it off, rinsing the paper off so that the text stays on the sellotape, and you can then put it onto a book or a pen or whatever the case may be. The point I'm trying to make is it's easy to cheat on any assessment. If a student is going to cheat, they will cheat. I don't think that we can actually argue that point. The same way, if a student is just lazy and doesn't have that motivation, you're going to have to try very hard to actually change that way of thinking for the student. So I think another argument against e-assessment is that there are so many disadvantages. And there I'm going to agree to some extent. They take quite a bit of time. It requires a change in thinking and practice, which is always difficult. And so it takes a lot of time, and yes, I know I'm repeating myself there. But it requires planning. We could make poor choices in terms of the method of assessment. And there's a possibility of cheating, but as you have seen, so it is with other forms of assessment as well. So, with an orange, we've now looked at the bitter outside, but what about the sweet, juicy inside? The advantages or the options. The advantages, I think, number one is that we can start creating authentic assessments. And authentic here being described as something that is closer to what they actually have to do in real life, what we are actually striving towards. We can use various forms of assessment. We don't have to be stuck to rigid ways of just using those green, pink, or yellow exam books. The university system supports good assessment using technology. We have the learning management system that we can use, but we also have other ways of assessing. And this is something that we can discuss. Using multimedia is a way that you can assess. And there are ways to do that, creating YouTube channels for your class and allowing students to upload their videos onto YouTube that you can then playlist. There are different ways, and I mean those are the kinds of things that you can contact our center for in terms of support. We are not confined to venue or time booking nightmares that are always there with assessments if we are using electronic submissions. And we can encourage collaboration and enhance engagement for students, which we are seeing more and more. So finally, I think what I want to say is that a solution could be that the first decision, or making a fruit salad, so just combining the two. And the first decision should be, what is the learning outcome? Always, that is what the first decision should be. Then, what is the best way to assess that outcome? And then in terms of e-assessment, saying, can the assessment be enhanced using technology? And if the answer is no, then leave it. Continue using your paper and pen. Continue using your face-to-face direct observation assessments if that's what's needed. But remember that if you are using e-assessment, be as authentic as possible. Limit the MCQ true-false questions that is literally just click, click, click. There are ways of including audio or video into your MCQ questions, which limits the ability for students to almost do screenshot printing. for cheating purposes, but also makes it a more authentic assessment. There are cases at the university where people are adding in videos in health sciences, a video of a patient interview, and then asking questions about what the possible diagnosis could be in a multiple choice question. And if you are using multiple choice questions, if that is the only thing that is applicable to your scenario or your environment, then make sure you have a large question bank. There are ways of using the learning management system, SunLearn, where you can actually almost ensure that the students in your group, none of them have the same exam paper that they are writing in the computer user areas, if you have a large enough question bank. Remember, this module is going to take you through a process of actually thinking about designing an assessment that is authentic and that assesses competency using technology in your case. Go through the book, work through it, discuss it with each other on the forum, and then design that assessment. Hopefully you would have actually completed the assignment by the time you've gone through all the activities. Enjoy and good luck.